Hello people, this is Mac. Well, over this past week we've had another Katrina moment in Buffalo, New York, where we had a snowstorm come through there that was dumped more than 50 inches of snow in that area. And it seems like whenever disasters strike, and it strikes the area where many Afro-Americans live, we seem to get the brunt of the exposure to all the death and everything else that comes in the path of the disaster, just as in Katrina, where many people suffered and died after Hurricane Katrina, where many people froze to death in snowbanks as well as in their homes and cars in Buffalo, New York. And among them was a 22-year-old woman named Anndel Taylor, whose family said she was stuck in her car for 18 hours before she died. Her body was found on Christmas after rescuers were unable to reach her earlier. She had moved to Buffalo to care for her ailing father. Her family lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. This story was first reported by WSOC-TV in Charlotte.
South Buffalo, New York, one of the hardest hit places in the country. The storm dumping more than 4 feet of snow there on that Buffalo area, 28 people dying over the weekend during this blizzard in western New York alone. That includes a young woman who grew up in Charlotte. WCNC Charlotte's Jesse Pierre talking with the family of 22-year-old Anndel Taylor. As you can imagine, they are devastated.
Anndel was getting off work Friday when she got stuck in the snow. Her family say she made several calls for help, but nothing. The next day, she was found, but it was too late.
It's like I want to wake up from this dream, you know? She was just so sweet.
A Charlotte family mourning the loss of Anndel Taylor, a nursing assistant who was trapped in the winter storm after work Friday afternoon in Buffalo, New York.
And then around 12, she texted us the last video saying that the snow was basically by her stomach.
That was the last time Thomasha Brown says she heard from her sister.
She was in a position where she was comfortable inside the car when they saw her body. She had on scrubs and Crocs. She didn't have a coat on, so she didn't freeze.
Loved ones described Anndel as a protector and a caregiver who moved to New York to go to school and help her dad.
She went all the way to Buffalo to take care of her father. And no one was there as far as the rescue people to help her.
Her family in New York say they did all they could to get to Anndel, but couldn't make it through all of the snow. Her body was found by a stranger Saturday night.
She was brave. She was loyal. She was always there. Anything we needed, if sister had it, we could always depend on her.
So it's really hard for us, like really hard. She was the youngest one, but she had the oldest soul.
Anndel's family say the same stranger who found her had a truck, drove them to her so that they could bring Anndel to the hospital. Anndel would have been 23 next month. In Southwest Charlotte, Jesse Pierre, WCNC Charlotte.
Had Buffalo been prepared for this devastating storm, maybe Anndel Taylor and others would not have lost their lives because of getting stuck in cars or whatever. It just wasn't coordinated properly. And why is it that every time that these things happen like this here, they always have a black mayor, just as in Katrina in New Orleans. Here in Buffalo, you had a black mayor there. And these city officials, they don't plan and prepare for disasters like this. And the state should have been working with them as well to prepare for this. Yet they don't have enough equipment there to properly do things. I understand that they were building a $850 million stadium for the Buffalo Bills, and that could have gone towards infrastructure with equipment to prepare for storms like this because Buffalo is known for having the snow, the lake effect snow coming off of Lake Erie. But let's listen to the mayor for a moment.
I just want to add that people who are out looting when people are losing their lives in this harsh winter storm is just absolutely reprehensible. I don't know how these people can even live with themselves, how they can look at themselves in the mirror. They are the lowest of the low.
Carol Horn, a former Buffalo Police Department, who in 2006 was fired after she stopped a white officer from putting a black man in a chokehold. She also advocated for a law called the Carroll Law, which was placed into effect that would require police officers to come to the aid of defendants who was being abused by a fellow police officer. So this was in 2020 when the Buffalo adopted Carroll's Law to require the police to intervene if a fellow officer uses excessive force. Now, she was arrested during this storm. Let's hear what she has to say.
People at this point.
Well, actually, what happened for me to get arrested is that I was driving along one of the major streets, which is Bailey Street. And when I was driving down, I saw a car with a trunk open, and there were people sitting on the ground in the snow, and the police were there. So I was going to drive past, but I was saying that's not right for them to be in the snow because it was cold. They could get hypothermia, so I don't know why the police placed them in the snow. And I went and asked got out of my vehicle and went around, and the officer came to me and said, "How can I help you?" And I said, "I know that these people probably were stealing, but you need to get them out of the snow." And he said that if I didn't stop impeding his investigation, which I was not, that I would be in the snow. And then he proceeded to point his finger into my face, and then he pushed me. And then after that, then I'm not sure what I did. I think I pushed him back, and he picked me up, slammed me on the ground, and then arrested me and charged me with those 3 charges, all because he had people on a cold, wet, snowy, icy ground and didn't feel like I should have the audacity to ask that they not be on the ground. Sure, because when he first approached me, he was polite. And immediately that changed. Immediately. It's the culture of the Buffalo Police Department to treat people that way. And that is why I even wrote the law, Carrio's Law, in the first place, was to try to change the culture. There's people in senior citizen buildings. My father's 97 years old, lost power. And for days, I couldn't get to him. And calling the police, they actually said they couldn't do anything. They were not answering calls. There were dead bodies. There was a dead body on the ground for like 2 days, and they're just down the street. So how they were not able to get that body, I'm not sure. But it took 2 days, and the persistence of regular people in order for them to go get that body, and that was only one of the bodies. There were bodies on the expressway, in their cars, because they were stuck. They were not prepared at all. In the senior housing, LBJ, I've been working with Miles Carter and David Lewis, community advocates, and Miles is also a housing inspector. We went in, there's water leaking from the ceilings onto electrical lines. We called the fire department, and they said, well, they knew about it, and that BMHA knew about it, and as far as I know, they have gone into the building, but they did not evacuate those people at all. So these people are living in deplorable conditions with no backup generators. The body count, I think, is more than what they're saying. If there's the live news crews to come to Buffalo, you should come because now it's about to get warm where the snow is going to melt, and I am sure the body count is going to be up there. The city was ill prepared, and they basically left people to die, and they're trying to say people are looting. I mean, not trying to say because it did happen, but they are trying to max the fact that they were not prepared and people died because they were not prepared. So now they want the looting to be the top story, and now they want to lump me in there to make it seem as if I was looting when they know that I was only asking them to take the people off of the snow. Because when you arrest someone, when is it that somebody puts somebody on snow, on ice? You put them in a police car. It's only common sense. So now I have to face 3 frivolous charges, knowing that I didn't do anything wrong, but the city of Buffalo has targeted me and my family, and it continues to happen even during this storm when I was out there helping people. Because
India Walton, a former Buffalo mayoral candidate and longtime community activist, was asked about the preparedness of the city of Buffalo. And this is how she responded to what was happening as an aftermath of the storm and what was done to prepare the people for this big, massive storm which dropped over 50 inches of snow on the city of Buffalo.
Juan and Amy, thanks for having me on. I think that the city's handling of this storm has been deplorable. I do applaud Kathy Hochul for a swift response, and I think that her and her collaboration with the county executive is more of a model of what the people of Buffalo and Western New York should expect in the collaboration between our state and local government when it comes to at least keeping people informed. I know that many state resources have come into the area, and I think folks like me, who've basically served as a de facto triage center, where folks are calling, DMing, emailing me to get help, we wonder where those resources are going, because it is everyday people like myself, like Curio, like the Buffalo Mutual Aid Network, who are delivering food, who are going and rescuing people, who are going on search missions and doing wellness checks. It is the people of Buffalo, the everyday hardworking folks of this city who've been taking care of one another, and there has been an abject failure on the part of our municipal and city government to make sure that those things are being done. In fact, as Cario alluded to, there's a lot of victim blaming going on. The story that is being told is about looting, but what I know is that I'm not looting because I am in a comfortable home. I have power, I have food, and I have resources. And when a community is disinvested from and does not have resources, you create the kinds of conditions where folks who are already in desperate situations and in needy times feel that more afraid that they won't be able to get their basic needs met. The city of Buffalo had 2 centers open, and I live very close to a private college, so it opened its doors independently of any collaboration with the city. So, you know, there were a lot of private citizens who were opening their homes, but as far as any city-sponsored warming centers, I know of about 2. And at one point there were 30,000 Buffalonians without power, 2 warming centers open, no public transit, a travel ban, and no emergency services. 911 was basically suspended. They said out of their own mouths publicly, don't even bother calling because we cannot help you. And I just don't understand how folks pay taxes, work hard, try and do the right thing, and still receive this type of treatment.
Well, let me ask you something. I mean,
Buffalo has a public works fleet of snowplows that is inadequate. Those departments remain understaffed. We spend more money on policing than we do making sure we have basic resources. In fact, the Buffalo police were calling for private citizens who own snowmobiles to come help rescue people. Why doesn't the city have snowmobiles? Why doesn't the city have smaller equipment? Why doesn't the city have heavier equipment, right? There are lots of whys, but I think that when it comes to spending $1 billion to fund, a billionaire's new stadium project, we need to look at the infrastructure of this city. We need to look at why we see photos of literal houses being blown over because we have the oldest housing stock in the nation. We have to look at why people are still with inadequate basic infrastructure, why people have been without power for 4 or 5 days. I think that $1 billion is much better invested in infrastructure and adequate, safe, affordable housing and, other things that keep people truly safe than it is in our sports team, which I love very much. I'm a huge fan. But I just think that there are many other ways that we can better use our resources than subsidizing folks who could very well build a new stadium themselves if they really wanted that. The weather is warming. We're already seeing a warming trend. Not only will there be massive flooding, there's also going to be ice and slick surfaces, slick roads. The conditions although warm, are going to continue to be very hazardous. And as of now, I've not heard any plan to deal with any of this. I'm hearing reports of, as the snow clouds are making it down the street, as people are shoveling out, they're still finding dead bodies. There are just so many things that have gone unaddressed. There are people who've been unable to get to a full service grocer in 5 days. There are folks who are hungry, who are cold. People who've been stuck at work for 3-4 days. There are so many issues, and it seems like there's no plan, no communication. But as always, we come together as a community and do as best as we can to take care of one another.
And